Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finnan.
And this is the Bad News Network. It was kind of a slow news week, which was a nice change of pace from the last year. The biggest hotness right now is that Gina Carano just got, not exactly fired from Lucasfilm, but removed from future opportunities, at least for the time being. My wife told me I probably shouldn't talk about this because it's such a hot button issue and it's easy for anyone to take what you say and blow it out of proportion. And I know she's right, but I'm gonna do it anyway. To start with, I believe any company should be able to fire anyone for any reason. So I'm not saying Disney did anything illegal or necessarily wrong. I also think comparing anything that isn't genocide to the Holocaust is a bad idea. Having visited the camps and having been deployed to the Balkans in the 90s and seen the results of the Kosovo genocide, where 13,000 ethnic Albanians were murdered and placed in mass graves, it makes the abomination of Nazi Germany all that more real for me. 13,000 rocked multiple nations. That region, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Kosovo, still hasn't recovered. And the Nazis were responsible for 6 million deaths in the most cold, cruel, and heartless manner imaginable. Every time I read about the Holocaust, it sends chills down my spine. Every day, I get an email from the Holocaust Museum and receive another update of a person who perished in the camps. On extremely rare days, the update is about someone who lived. And then I think even more about what the rest of their lives must have been like, whether they could ever really trust anyone again. Most of all, I think about what we are capable of. Because while it's easy to mock the Germans and hang that travesty around their necks, the fact is that it has happened elsewhere. In China, in Russia, in Cambodia, in Armenia, Rwanda, East Timor, Bosnia, Kosovo, Haiti, and even in Australia and here at home during our founding with the genocide of Native Americans. The fact is that we are all capable of performing this kind of evil. So given those two things, why even bring this up? What is there to talk about? For me, it's a couple of things. It's the idea that a lie can go around the world 10 times before the truth even gets out of bed. Gina Carano made a stupid post. It was a terrible comparison. Was it anti-Semitic? Only if you want to stretch so hard that you injure yourself. The point she tried to make, poorly, was that the Nazis began by constantly blaming the Jews for everything until they were no longer seen as human, and compared that to the way she sees Republicans being treated by the media, tech giants, and Hollywood. It's a bad comparison. Why? I'm a conservative. No one has ever said shit to me in the real world. Plenty of people have talked crap on social media, but so what? You can just ignore them, block them, or remove the app entirely from your phone. It's not real, and I've got a decent little audience between Ranger Up and my pages. Not one person ever in real life has said anything to me. They certainly haven't threatened me or hit me. Now, she's a big star across multiple arenas, MMA, film, and modeling. With that comes more heat, but that's always been the case. The more famous you are, the more people love you, and the more people hate you. And I'm sure she felt that heat many times. As they always tell you, never read the comments. They can be brutal. I even foolishly answer them sometimes, and at least 1.4% of the time, that works out great for me. But again, no matter how much is said online, I'm pretty sure that 99% of the time when she's seen in public, it's by excited fans and not by angry people meaning to do her harm. That is not the precursor to a Holocaust. That's just internet shit talking. But, and this is an important but, the comment still wasn't anti-Semitic. She didn't attack the Jewish people. She made an uneducated comparison. So that's my first issue. They're claiming she's an anti-Semite when in fact, she made a really dumb comment. That's a major difference. I've met Gina Carano a few times. I've rarely met a nicer person. I've also never heard of bad things said about her by anyone who interacts with her. I'd say the chances that she hates anyone are pretty slim. Certainly possible, but slim. The second issue is the hypocrisy of Disney, the talking heads, and Hollywood. You can choose to like it or not, but conservatives in Hollywood are held to a different standard than liberals. The unwritten rule is that if you're conservative, you have to shut up about it. If you're liberal, you're afforded a lot of latitude, even when your opinions are insane. As Reason magazine pointed out today, Sean Penn is a Hugo Chavez apologist. Benicio del Toro dedicated an award to total piece of shit murderer Che Guevara, and Nick Cannon praised Nation of Islam founder Louis Farrakhan, who basically hates all Jewish people. Hell, Representatives Meeks and Ellison met with the Iranian president and Farrakhan a couple years ago, maybe the two most anti-Semitic dudes on the planet, and they were affixed with no labels. Everyone has kind of let them hang around without any real repercussions. For the last 4 years, anyone who wore a Trump hat has been called a Nazi. People are now talking about vengeance to anyone who voted for Trump. And the new call out is not just for those who voted for him the first time, but for those who voted for him the last time. What does that have to do with Disney? Well, Pedro Pascal, the lead of The Mandalorian, made a comparison to Republicans being Nazis 2 years ago with imagery of children being held at the border and Nazi work camps. Why was that okay? Then, of course, there's Disney producer Jack Morrissey, who posted about running MAGA children through a wood chipper head first, along with accompanying imagery, and he still works there. And then my personal favorite, Disney thanking the Chinese Communist Party for their help in Mulan, which was filmed in the same region in the same time frame that China was committing an actual genocide against the Uyghur Muslims. I'm sorry, but it's just hard to swallow. For me, we have a company that has allowed other stars to make similar boneheaded comments without repercussion, who overlooked genocide in order to pad their Chinese sales, now suddenly clutching their pearls because an actor on the other political spectrum made a boneheaded comment that did not in any way attack Jews, but instead made the comment that the Jews were wronged terribly and then foolishly tried to tie the severity of that to the treatment of Republicans today. And that hypocrisy is made all the worse by the fact that they are part of an industry that has hid misogynists, abusers, rapists, and pedophiles for generations. Again, they can do what they want. It's a private company, and Holocaust comparisons are absolutely and always dumb, especially when you're talking about modern day America. But it's striking that Kathy Griffin, the only liberal I can think of that has had any repercussions for her absurd actions and statements when she held a fictional severed head of the President of the United States and posted it online in 2017, just reposted it again on election night to the applause of most of her fans. She suffered one down year for her actions and is now heralded as a heroine. My guess is that Hollywood and the media are not going to afford Gina the same level of forgiveness in 1 year's time. But this isn't just about Gina, it's about our eagerness to cancel anyone and anything over any mistake. I know the new hotness is that freedom of speech is not freedom from consequence, and of course that's absolutely true. But it also isn't that hard to give people, especially people who are not out there trying to do harm, the benefit of the doubt. Most people are not trying to hurt others. And the higher you get on that horse judging everyone and everything, the more likely you are to fall off in spectacular fashion. And man, would it really suck if all the good deeds you've done, all the kindnesses you have shown, all the goodwill you've built up were thrown away over one really bad take. And also, Jeep. Super weak sauce canceling the boss over a shot of Patron. Come on now, your mom drinks more than that and gets in a car.
This event will go down in history. Of all the terrible things that have happened this year, and there have been a lot, this has to be the worst there was and will be. Textbooks will record this resounding, catastrophic development. Shaq's Krispy Kreme burned down. Early Wednesday morning, 2 workers were doing their jobs when they smelled smoke. They tried calling 911 for help, but it was far too late. Who could have committed such foul play? Well, the front of the building was relatively okay. The rest of the building was considered a complete loss. This will surely damage our nation's morale and will have lasting effects on society. Fair winds to you, delicious, sweet soldiers of Krispy Kreme. You will be missed, especially by our nation's collective belly.
Hang on to your hat, Fred Savage, because there's a new wizard in town.
The Wizard was a reference to a 1989 movie where Fred Savage raced across the country to play a video game. You likely won't get the reference, but Nick loved it, so here's the explanation.
Apparently 4 pigs, Hamlet, Omelette, Ebony, and Ivory, were trained to play video games using a joystick and their snout, and they were pretty damn good at it. The game was set up so that they had to maneuver a dot around a bunch of objects and hit a small wall, kind of like a stationary version of the game Pong. Each time they completed a level, they were given another food pellet, and they picked it up fast. But you know what's even wilder? When the food pellets were gone, they kept playing, beating level after level. The experiment involved Yorkshire pigs and Penapinto micro pigs. Apparently the micro pigs dominated the competition, with Ivory winning 76% of the levels she tried, while the Yorkies were under 50%. By the end, she looked them right in the eyes and said, "You're as useless as a traffic light in GTA." When asked about how this changes the way humans will look at pigs, the scientists responded that unfortunately, bacon remains delicious.
You know that question, could you survive on an uninhabited island with nothing but the clothes on your back? Well, for these folks, it became a reality. 3 Cubans, 2 men, 1 woman, swam to a nearby island in the Bahamas when their boat sank, and they survived for 33 days off of coconuts primarily, but also some rats and some conchs and some other stuff. I don't know, mussels. The U.S. Coast Guard were flying around on patrol when the Coast Guard official Riley Beecher spotted a group waving a makeshift flag. The patrol wasn't equipped to make a full-blown rescue, so they airdropped some water, food, a radio, and some pictures of their dog. It's an iPhone joke for you Android users and flip phone users. Beecher communicated with the stranded trio, but he only speaks terrible Spanish, so he asked them how old their cat was, where the library was, and then effectively left them there to die with a lighthearted adios. But not long after that, a full-blown rescue was made, and all 3 came away with no major injuries. Rescuers were astonished that the 3 managed to survive for that long on a relatively barren island. They apparently flourished there, however, finding shelter in a small thicket, establishing a viable commerce with the local wildlife, and engineering a shrubbery, one that looks nice and was not too expensive.
Tessica Brown found herself in a sticky situation after using Gorilla Glue as a hairspray. The results were what any person with common sense would expect when applying industrial-grade glue to their head. After permanently encasing her hair in glue, Tessica took to the internet with videos showing her plight. The internet responded with a mixed bag of sympathy, comedy, and utter confusion at her decision to Gorilla Glue her hair. After one unsuccessful trip to the ER, the second was able to unglue her do. She is currently seeking legal counsel as to whether or not she can sue Gorilla Glue. The company has stated that it states on their products that they're not for use on eyes, skin, or clothing, but with no mention of hair, which Tessica says she feels is misleading. She's also signed with a talent agency, has hired a marketing team, and is calling herself a person of influence, which was certainly not on the list of titles the internet has been bestowing upon her. But hey, maybe she's actually a genius marketer. We'll have to wait and see if she sticks around. Either way, we at BNN simply wish her glued luck.
By a vote of 56 to 44, the Senate has voted to commence with the impeachment of former President Donald Trump. The 6 Republicans who joined the Democrats on the voting to continue the trial were Senators Susan Collins of Maine, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Mitt Romney of Utah, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, and Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. The chief argument of Republicans who did not support continuing with the trial because he is out of office, he no longer can face the consequences of impeachment, which would result in his removal from office. Democrats argue that there is no such limit on powers of impeachment. It surprised many that 6 Republicans switched sides, but that victory is minor. It will take a superhuman effort to convict. Democrats will need 17 Republicans, 9 more, to find the president guilty, with 35 Republicans stating firmly at the outset that they would vote not guilty. This likely will end in a month's time, falling short of the needed 67 senators.
California is on the brink of having enough signatures to recall Governor Gavin Newsom. A total number of 1.5 million signatures are needed by March 17th in order to have a recall vote. The Recall Newsom movement has stated that they currently have 1.4 million and expect to have 2 million just in case some signatures are invalidated. Recently, Newsom has been active in press conferences announcing vaccination site opening and attempting to boost morale with messages of hope. The reporting on this from the Democrats and Republicans differ, as you would expect. the Republicans have zeroed in on Newsom's shortcomings and blunders, most notably when he was caught attending a dinner party after locking the entire state down. The Democrats and their media have pointed the finger at Republicans, labeling the move to recall a desperate attempt at relevancy. Regardless, should they move to vote to recall Newsom, it isn't a guarantee that he will be removed. California is still heavily Democratic, so it's unlikely that a Republican will replace him, but that could mean that another Democrat could. The White House tweeted out that it does not support the movement to recall. Okay, but they'll just have to take a seat in the stands with the rest of us while we see how this plays out. At the very least, to watch our country's democratic process happen. Maybe Newsom will take a page from the Northam playbook and simply change the number of signatures needed to an absurdly high percentage and just go about his day. Stay tuned!
Reports have stated that Governor Cuomo's top aide Melissa DeRosa has admitted to purposefully withholding New York nursing home coronavirus death toll numbers. She said that their administration had rejected a legislative request for the August numbers because Trump had directed the DOJ at them and they didn't want the numbers to be used against them. And later she added that it was Trump's fault for making it all so political by tweeting and going after anyone and everyone, and asked for a little appreciation of the context. Those numbers would have told a story of more than 13,000 dead in nursing homes. This because Cuomo directly ordered nursing homes to take in COVID-positive patients in March. DeRosa stated that they finally released the real stats after they were certain they would not be federally investigated. She then apologized to the Democratic Party for the political position they put them in with the Republicans. Yikes.
This week, we want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Louisiana sanitation workers Dion Merrick and Brandon Antoine for saving 10-year-old Jaleesa LaSalle from her kidnapper. On Sunday, just past midday, the two spotted a car situated in the middle of a field. Merrick stated that he felt something was really off about it and they drove out to investigate. We weren't able to get the details of how the encounter went down, but we do know that they blocked the car from escaping with their truck. Police arrived and arrested 33-year-old Michael Serial. He is currently being charged with aggravated kidnapping of a child and failure to register as a sex offender. To Dion Merrick and Brandon Antoine, you two acted in a moment that mattered most and delivered incalculably. That's some warrior shit right there, sirs. Vaya con Dios. And finally, in Florida man news, 55-year-old Thomas White was arrested this week for punching his girlfriend repeatedly in the face for changing the channel during the Super Bowl. If this had been a couple of Philly fans, this would simply go in the report as flirting, but this was Florida. White told police that he acted in self-defense and that the woman had been slapping him despite the fact that he didn't have a single injury. He tried a Hail Mary attempt by saying that she had been running her mouth during the game in the hopes that this would somehow help the police come to see his side of the story. Our gasps were sufficiently flabbered when we learned that the police did not, in fact, come around to his side. Additionally, White has a history of being a piece of human feces. He's previously been convicted of domestic violence toward a pregnant woman. So needless to say, the super bully was sacked in the name of safety and carried to jail where he'll have to protect his tight end. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and congratulations to the Patriots for taking the Bucks to the Super Bowl. As always, you can get 25% off at rangerup.com when you use the code BNN. If you have any great shirt ideas, drop them in the comments section, and if we use them, you get some free gear. And of course, last but certainly not least, Nick and Matt OnlyFans for some great behind-the-scenes content. Content!